In this video, I'm going to show you the latest version of the Unifi Network Application, which is release 8.07. We're going to have a look at the most important new additions, like for example the new port viewer, the new radio manager, and the new site manager. Hello viewers. As I just said in my intro, we are going to have a look at the latest version of the Unifi Network Application, which is 8.07, which came out just yesterday afternoon. We're going to have a look in detail at the latest and greatest additions and changes, like, as I said already, the port manager, the radio manager, the site manager, and all these things. Lots of managers, but also a few UI changes. Also, if you are running it in a Docker environment like me, I'm going to show you how to upgrade to this latest version. Enjoy the video. Before you get started with the upgrade, I would absolutely recommend that you make a backup of your existing installation, which is very, very simple. You just log on to your network application, you go to System Settings and select the Backup tab, and basically just create a backup by clicking on that respective button, then it's done. Now we can proceed to the upgrade. We're going to use Portainer, as I've already shown in this video, in which I demonstrate how to actually move from the centralized installation to the one where we have the network application, Unifi Network Application, and the database separated. If you haven't done so, have a look at this video, because otherwise you might not really understand where I'm coming from. Okay, let's go to Portainer into the stacks overview, and as you can see, I've already listed my Unifi Network Application stack here. I'm clicking on it, and now let's change to the editor view. And it's not necessary to change anything here in the script. You just scroll down until you see this Update the Stack button, click on it, and now you have to activate this switch, which is called Repull Image and Redeploy. This makes sure that the latest version of, for example, if there was for MongoDB a new version, would be downloaded, as well as the latest version of your Unifi Network Application. Then, once you've activated the switch, click on Update, and depending on your internet connection, it can take up to a few minutes until everything has been downloaded and deployed. In my case, I'm already on the latest and greatest version, so there is nothing to download or change, so it just basically starts the application up. In your case, with the latest deployment just done, please follow me now and click on Logs, because this is absolutely vital that we have a look at the logs, because we have to see whether everything went fine. Because sometimes, even if the stack itself or the container itself shows ready or running or whatever in a green icon, there are sometimes still errors. And we just put on our error glasses, and we check everything for error messages or something similar, or warnings even. In my case, when I upgraded yesterday from to the latest version 8.07, everything went absolutely smoothly. Now, with that out of the way, we can actually have a look at our newly installed network application release 8.07. Before we go onto the application itself, let's have a look at the Unifi website. I'm going to leave this link down in the video description so that you can have a look yourself. But let's quickly glance over this long list of changes. You also already see there are a few screenshots of the points which I mentioned earlier in the intro: the radio manager, the port manager, the VLAN Viewer, and also there is the new WireGuard VPN client. Unfortunately, I can't show that to you because I'm running an old USG 3 port, and the WireGuard VPN client is only available on the latest consoles like UDM Pro, UDM SE, and so on and so on. Unfortunately, USGs are deprecated and hence not are not supporting the WireGuard VPN client. I assume this is also because of CPU restrictions. Then also we have a site overview. We're going to have a look at that as well. And then we have the long list of improvements, new added features, and bug fixes. So if I wanted to go through all these points individually, we would still sit here in 2 hours. So let's just keep it short and sweet and have a look at the most important features and a few things left and right, like for example, the improved firewall rules UX, which is a nice example for continuous improvement. Okay, let's go over to the network application itself. You see I'm already logged on, and this is the dashboard. There were no major changes except for one. This is up here on the left-hand side. In the previous version, there was still the picture of my USG 3-port router with a few cables plugged in, which has now been replaced with this generic icon of a self-hosted network application thing. Also, we see the latest version here. However, I kind of like the picture of my router being there. Yeah, well, everything in life has its price. So yeah, no major changes here except for that. And of course, here on the left-hand side, there are a few new icons in this navigation bar, which we're going to have a look at in a few minutes. First, let's have a look at the site switcher, respectively the site overview. I've now clicked on the site switcher, which is only available on the self-hosted application and the versions which are installed on the cloud keys. The consoles themselves are not capable are not multi-site capable, hence you will not see that. So let's click on full overview, which is a new link, and now we have an overview of all our sites which we are managing. But there are a few things which I don't understand quite yet. First of all, it indicates that I have 2 WAN connections. This is not correct. I only have 1. And then my uptime is on 0, but the app itself is running since quite some time, as well as my network, or for example, the router. So I don't understand why it says 0%. Then we have an overview of my networks and my Wi-Fi networks. And I have to tell you, there is also, the number of networks is correct. I have basically 5 virtual networks, the default network and 4 VLANs. That's absolutely correct. However, I only have 4 Wi-Fi networks. Only. I have 4 Wi-Fi networks. Why does it indicate 5? I don't know. And honestly, I haven't bothered to count my Wi-Fi and wired clients yet. So this might be correct or not. I didn't verify this yet. I can show you, for example, let's just branch off to my network settings. Wi-Fi networks, as you can see, I have 4. Previously it said 5. There must be one which I can't see. And then under networks, this is correct. I have 5 networks. 1 default network and 4 VLANs. Everything cool here. Then under internet, as you can see, I only have 1 WAN connection. Why it says 2, no idea. This is one of these things. Before I continue with this video, a few words about how you can support this channel. Of course, you could buy me a coffee. There is a link down in the video description. And it would be absolutely awesome if you would subscribe to this channel. And just take your time now to click on subscribe, and don't forget to ring the bell, because then you will be notified each time I release a new video. But now let's continue with Unifi Network Application 807. Okay, now let's have a look at the next big feature, which is behind this ports icon. You can see the stylized RJ45 port icons here. Let's click here, and now we are in the port viewer. Currently, I have selected my currently only switch, but you can also go up here to this drop down and select all ports. In that case, all ports of all switches which you have in your environment will be listed here. So for example, if you have an 8 port and a 16 port, you will see 24 ports listed here. If you have several 48 port switches, I think this list will be pretty long. But you can also customize what's given in this list. For example, you can say, okay, show me all ports of all switches, which is, as I said, if you have several 48 port switches, a very long list. But you can also fine tune it and say, okay, I only want to see the ports which are actually in use right now. You can turn it around and say, I only want to see the available ports, which means which are not plugged in at the moment. So you can actually plan your activities. For example, you can see, aha, on this switch port so and so is available. Then you can go to your patch panel and do your patch it up accordingly, for example. And before you do that, for example, you can give these ports certain settings. We're going to look at this in a moment. There are a few more selections which you can do. Like, for example, I only want to see ports which don't provide PoE. Yeah, okay. Or you can select only ports which support PoE, and so on and so on. I think if you have more sophisticated switches, there will be more selections there, but in my case, it's only the 8-port light and hence the respective selections. Let's just turn on all, because then we can also have a look at, for example, the insights, which is the next point in this main overview. And as you can see, you can't see anything here in this graphic. Why? Because we didn't select any ports. And to have a graphic, for example, mostly should make sense if you only look at the ports in use, which I've turned on now. Still nothing visible because they want us to select the ports which we want to actually examine. For example, I'm going to turn on this PoE port here, and I see that there's something happening. Now I can turn this one off and look at port 7. Aha, okay. You know how to interpret this graphic, and so on and so on. But you can also turn on all the ports, and then you have the cumulated list or cumulated graphics here. Now we are having a look at our VLAN overview, and I think this is one of the best things Unifi has done in this app, honestly, because this visually makes very clear how your VLAN configuration is set up, how it works, and how you can configure it. Let's just see what we have here. Basically, if you look at port 1, which is basically top to bottom given here, we have the default network as the native network, and this port also spits out these 4 VLANs. However, if I want to configure that, let's click on port 1. We'll immediately transport into this configuration interface. Then I have several options to fine-tune the behavior of this port in terms of VLANs and networking. First of all, I can say, which one is your native network? And if you want to know what's behind that, you can scroll over this little I, and there is the explanation behind this setting. So for example, we could select a different native network than default. Up to you what you want. Or, it's all cumulative, we can change the tagged VLAN management. And also, if you wanted to have more information about that, scroll over this I and it explains the whole thing. Let's stay with exactly this setting because I think this is super interesting. You can click on, for example, block all, then you're blocking all VLANs and you're only letting through your default network, or you can set a custom setting and then select different VLANs. Again, now we have a new point with an I, and it says, okay, we can configure our VLANs here on a per port basis, which can be annoying because if I want to have the same setting for different ports, then I could actually work with Ethernet port profiles. Let's stay with this custom setting for now, and then afterwards explore the port profiles on their own. But now let's select, for example, two VLANs, and I want to basically the IoT VLAN available on this port and the containers network. Okay, I've selected the two. I click on Save and apply changes. Now we are back in the ports overview. It would be nice if we could jump back to the VLANs, but this is something for future improvement. Let's go to the VLANs themselves, and now you see that this port is spitting out the default network, the IoT network as we selected, and the containers network. However, it does not put out output. It doesn't supply information or data from the guest network and the STA network. These are turned off basically, and you see they are marked as blocked. I think the way this is giving us fine-tuned configuration for each network port or for each switch port is fantastic. It makes it's so easy to understand what's potting with VLANs, and you don't have to remember what's tagged, untagged, yada yada yada. This whole terminology, which is sometimes a little bit confusing, is made clear by this particular overview. Earlier we said we're going to have a look at the port profiles, which are another option to basically make repeatable configurations for network ports. And this is nothing new. You find it here under Settings, Profiles, and I've already created one which is called Demo, and basically it provides the same settings as an individual port setting which we saw earlier, but this is basically kind of a template which I then can apply to several ports at the same time. Brilliant. Now we just had a look at the port and VLAN manager. Now let's go to the next newish thing. This is our radio manager. It's represented by this wavy icon here in our main communication bar, configuration bar, main menu bar. Let's just click on it, and now we have the overview of all our radio settings for our access points. It's very similar to the idea of the port manager, but specific to wireless LAN. And it lists all our wireless LANs up here, and it shows the access points which are configured for this particular wireless LAN, together with the frequencies on which these networks are operating. So basically not much new here, but everything in one concentrated view, so we don't have to work ourselves through the devices and do things there. We have basically a similar or dedicated AP access point configuration view in this environment here. This particular list is new, and you can also fine-tune it according to your plans, because if you're listing all your access points, for example, for a bigger network, also here the list can get pretty long, like we had with the port overview. So you have different options how to or what to select. For example, you can say I only want to see the access points which are giving off the 2.4 gigahertz signal. The same applies to 5 gigahertz. By the way, these checks are cumulative. They don't turn off against each other. Then I can also say, okay, only show me the access points which have 2x2 MIMO. Now show me only the access points which have 3x3 MIMO, and so on. Or show me the access points which are wired. Also, the selection here will certainly change according to the features which the access points which you have implemented provide. For example, if you have higher MIMO configurations, or if you have access points which are meshed and so on, there will be also selections according to that. Let's go back and select all and explore the rest of what's behind the next bars, or the next points in this bar here. The coverage overview is a known thing. We already had that in the previous releases, and I can't see any changes here either. Then we have the connectivity overview, which is also being carried forward from earlier releases, and also the same for the environment overview, which is also already known. So there is nothing new for us here, but I think everything has been restructured and regrouped properly in a view which is specific to radios and access points and so on, and we don't have to jump around too much to get to our information. So I think this is a great step forward. Now, we had a look at the most important additions and changes. Now I would like to emphasize on one smaller thing, which I think shows that Ubiquiti is listening to us video makers and people like everybody who actually contributes and tells or supplies information in the here in the forum. And you might remember in the previous video I complained that there is some kind of inconsistency in the user interface. That was here under security in the firewall rules, and the fact was that I said if you are working in, for example, under guests and working with a rule set here and you jump back, you're always transferred back to the internet area instead of staying, for example, under guests or under LAN. And I'm going to show you how it works now. Let's just imagine I'm here in the under guest and I'm working with a particular rule. I'm working and so on. I'm going to save it or not. And then I click on firewall rules. In the past, it would jump back to internet, but now we stay exactly where we were before, meaning under guest. The same under LAN. I'm here working with a rule set. I'm going back to the rules overview, and I'm still in the LAN area, which is exactly what it's supposed to be like. Which means if we look back at our change list here, and we see, for example, improved firewall rules UX, exactly what I just showed you. And honestly, I think with this release, Unifi or Ubiquiti has demonstrated that they are interested in what they are doing with this app. They're interested in our feedback, and you can actually see improvements based on all that. And I think they deserve a big thumbs up for all the work which went into this. This brings me to the end of this video about Unifi Network Application Release 807. I hope this was helpful or at least entertaining. In both cases, it would be awesome if you could leave me a like, because it doesn't only help this video, but the entire channel to become a little bit more popular on YouTube and position itself more optimally in the YouTube algorithm. For now, thank you very much for watching and see you soon.